Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1719 of our daily content grind. We are going to ask one of the longest running and biggest questions in Transformers history. Why exactly does Megatron keep Starscream around? Starscream is the single most infamous traitor in Transformers history. Dinobot said so much himself during Beast Wars. And it's not just a Generation 1 thing. The go-to depiction for Starscream, regardless of what generation it is the guy who wants to be in charge of the whole thing and is going to take whatever opportunity he can get in order to try to claim power from Megatron. So the question begs every single time, why does Starscream get to stick around even though he's trying to overthrow Megatron, and doing so openly, I might add. This isn't something he's plotting. This isn't something that he's just keeping like close to the chest. No. He is actively shouting about it with Megatron in the room. He is not shy about this in most continuities. So the question has always been, why? Why would Megatron, who's supposedly one of the most brilliant military minds in the entire universe, managed to keep the most infamous traitor around and close to him, no less? Now, before we get into the real meat of it, we will acknowledge this is not universal, right? So, for instance, in Cyberverse, the second Megatron got any kind of treachery out of Starscream, he basically just stalked him through the ship, beating the ever-living scrap out of him until he blasted him to near death and threw him off the ship onto a planet below. Yeah, one of the more brutal beatdowns. Starscream usually gets punched up a bit by Megatron. It's an abusive relationship. This was just a straight up beating. So this Megatron was smart enough to get rid of the problem. So was animated Megatron, and animated Megatron is very underrated. He is one of the smartest and most devious Megatrons there are. So yeah, in this case, the second Megatron had his body back, he made it a priority to off Starscream. And it wasn't like an almost dead thing like in Cyberverse where he kind of came back. No. All the way dead. All the way dead. Took the Allspark fragments in order to make him not dead anymore. Wasted no time. Probably like the quickest to kill ratio there is between Megatron and Starscream. So it's not every Megatron that does this, but a lot of them do. Now, you and I know why. Starscream is one of the most popular characters in Transformers. He might be number 2 behind only Megatron, and sometimes I question if he is behind Megatron. Because recall, Starscream is a design and a character that has maintained his overall design and overall color scheme and head design and all this throughout multiple incarnations, even when the likes of Megatron changed constantly. Unicron trilogy. So, sometimes he's a little bit more sacred. So we know he's kept around for toy sales because he's popular, etc., etc. That's the real reason, but we want the fictional reasons. Now, here is a shot from IDW 1.0, which is our authority on good Transformers writing around here. So this is Megatron giving his explanation. I believe this is during the Dark Cybertron arc. Here's why I keep you around, Starscream. You are a competent warrior whose bullying and intimidation keeps those below you in check. You are venomous. Your venomous aspirations define you as a model Decepticon, the type of deviant that will ensure our ultimate victory. But it is the thought of you in charge that keeps me alert. You see, leadership is not something I fear losing. It is something I dread you gaining. In moments where my all-consuming destiny lies ahead of me, you remind me to I need to watch my back. And that is your importance to me, Starscream. So yeah, he keeps a dangerous traitor around because he's trying to stay on high alert. Now, I could technically believe this to an extent. Starscream is a very dangerous character who is capable of standing toe to toe with Megatron on a good day, but because Megatron is always on the watch for that, he's always a step above and he's never given Starscream the opportunity. So, yes, as a part of almost like a training method. Yeah. But see, the part where I don't buy this is that it doesn't necessarily have to be Starscream. On any given day, there are probably a dozen Decepticons in Megatron's ranks, regardless of what universe, that are more than eager to try to gain power for themselves. It's the nature of the Decepticons to gain power and authority. Naturally, they would want it for themselves at some point. We've seen it in the original G1 cartoon. You know, the second Megatron's hucked out of Astro Train and Starscream declares himself the leader, the Constructicons step up, Soundwave steps up. Who else? Who knows who else had a claim that was fighting inside that spaceship that day? So no, I don't necessarily think it has to be Starscream that keeps Megatron on his toes. Starscream might be like the biggest threat, but someone else would step up. Someone else would try to take leadership. If it wasn't him, it'd be Shockwave, it'd be Soundwave, it'd be whoever got the bright idea on the right day. So I don't quite buy that. The one in the G1 cartoon is because Starscream amuses Megatron, that his poor attempts at hostile takeovers is just more like a joke more than anything. And we've seen where Megatron does get sick of the treachery once he gets bored of Starscream's routine. But he still keeps him around even after he got bored of the routine. Again, it comes down to Starscream's a valuable asset, but I don't necessarily believe this one either. Because again, there are plenty of Decepticons who would do the exact same as Starscream, but we've even seen it in that series. Triple Takeover basically proved that given the right opportunity, a lot of Decepticons would make an attempt. And I find Blitzwing and Astro Train's attempt at Takeover far more hilarious than anything Starscream pulls. See, Starscream, especially in G1, is just short-sighted. He sees opportunities to take over, but he lacks the ability to have a grand plan or takeover scheme that would actually do something to bring Megatron down a peg. So if you really want amusement, I would probably just get Starscream out of the way so that even more futile attempts could come up. The even more ridiculous ones. What do you mean he's trying to lead the Decepticons with an army of remote-controlled trains? What do you mean he's turned a football stadium into a base? That seems far funnier to me. Like if he just wanted amusement out of Starscream. Now, the funniest one is in the Generation 2 comic where he just says, "I'm an idiot." And this is probably the most famous example of Megatron just flat out saying, "Yeah, I don't know why I keep him around." Okay, but just for the sake of completion, and just to read it here. That's why. That's what they all asked me. Why him? Why Starscream? Why, of all Decepticons, did I decide to revitalize one whose record of deceit and betrayal is legend? Because I'm an idiot. That's why. For those who didn't follow the comic books at the time, Megatron, of all people, decided that Starscream needed to be resurrected as a pretender. So that's again a toy-based decision. Starscream had a Pretender toy coming out. They wanted all the Pretender classics in there. So yeah, we got Starscream back. I want to say that like even in the comic books, everyone was kind of shocked as to go like, why him? Why did you bring him back? Now, obviously, Megatron is not an idiot. He's an incredibly brilliant mind. He's very tactical in any continuity. Maybe not the Beast Megatron from the Netflix series, but like that one aside. Megatrons are typically very intelligent, very calculating, very aware of themselves. So it's a funny line. And it's said from a Megatron who is in a moment of desperation and for whatever reason decides levity is the right choice here. But for the most part, yeah, this is a gag. Like he's basically in the moment of like, okay, well, Starscream controls a war world now and the matrix of leadership. Maybe this wasn't the brightest idea. Maybe bringing him back was a bad idea. So it's a weird moment of levity for Megatron in a tense moment. You know, where he's suddenly regretting his life choices. But no. Canonically, there are a few reasons. There's one major reason why Starscream is kept around, and that is because across all universes, Starscream is one of the most skilled and powerful Decepticons. Even though he's a seeker sharing a body type with, dozens of other bots at any given time, he does manage to have an air of authority to him. He does manage to have a superior level of strength, of tactical ability. Keep in mind, in the original G1 cartoon, he was also a scientist. They never touch on that anymore. But yeah, Starscream is exceptionally intelligent. It's a streak of cowardice and over-eagerness that keeps him from really accomplishing anything. But no, he is kept around because he is one of the best warriors that Megatron has. He's incredibly quick in the air, in like battle tactics and combat ability. He is among the best of the Decepticons. And that's really how it goes. Logically, the most important thing to Starscream is he's worth the risk. And that is where his ineffectiveness at taking over really comes into play. Yes, Megatron can keep Starscream around because he's amusing. He's funny to have around. His attempts at takeover, give me joy. And that's valid, actually. Like, I will completely give Megatron that. However, if you permit me, there is a reason that I have always had in my mind, and one that makes, I think, more sense than any of the given reasons. The whole reason you keep someone like Starscream around is not because it's amusing to you, not because it keeps your wits sharp, but because you're taking advantage of the one flaw Starscream has across all of his takeover attempts, is something I mentioned before. He's overly eager. He is capable of a plan, but it is still always a plan that has come up in the moment. The Combaticons were his best attempt at a takeover in G1, but it was still an idea he came up with on the spot after seeing a bunch of World War II vehicles on, the island he was left to rot on. So, it's still not the grand scheme, There's very few Starscreams who ever pulled off the grand scheme. It was always moments of opportunity. Starscream is opportunistic, not calculating when it comes to his takeover attempts. And that means they're always going to be half-baked. They are always going to be ill-timed, and they are never going to succeed. That over-eagerness makes Starscream the only Decepticon who's actually going to make the attempt. As I said, throw a bolt into Decepticon headquarters, you're going to hit a Decepticon that wants to take over. That's just how it works amongst the Decepticons. We saw it multiple times in multiple continuities. But none of them are dumb enough to try. Starscream is a scientist, makes him book smart, makes him educated, does not make him smart in and of himself, right? So he's dumb enough to think his plans that he comes up with on the spot are actually going to work. And when they don't, he's humiliated. But the important thing for Megatron is it shows everyone else why you do not make this attempt. Look at this. Starscream is my number 2. He is my most powerful warrior outside of like the likes of Combiners and potentially Shockwave. He is fast, he is strong in battle, and he does have genuine leadership capabilities. Even though he never gets the big takeover, he does command the Seekers, and he has led many missions. He's the only one who really gets to lead missions if Megatron is not there. So everyone on the Decepticon roster sees this is a very powerful bot. But Megatron always overcomes the takeover attempts, which means nobody else is going to try anything. I'll guarantee you, like, Soundwave could probably come up with something to take over, you know, if he wasn't in that super loyal Soundwave mode. Shockwave especially. We've seen multiple times where Shockwave is taken over, in the Marvel Comics especially. You can overthrow Megatron. You can. But when you're watching the best that the Decepticon forces have to offer, second only to Megatron himself, continuously fail the attempt, you're not going to try it. Starscream's kept around as an example, not because of amusement, not to keep Megatron sharp. He is there to show the futility of trying. So that's my take on it. That's my answer. Obviously, across multiple continuities, there are plenty of things you could come up with, but let me know in the comments below. Do you agree with my take, or inversely, do you have a reason? Why do you think Megatron keeps him around when he's always trying to kill him? That is your discussion in the comment section below. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.